Hi there, this is Donna Bordeaux with Campground Accounting, and you are listening to Campground Compass, the show dedicated to campground owners in an entrepreneurial mindset who seek to grow and expand in the wild and wonderful world of business. Hello, and welcome to Campground Compass, the podcast for family owned campgrounds and wannabe campground owners. I am your host, Donna Bordeaux, and I'm here with Zach Bordeaux as well. And
Hey.
we have a special guest today as well. Our special guest today is Rebecca Gunter from Stone Fruit, and Rebecca is a marketing genius. So I'll just lead her off with that. We're going to ask her some more, a little bit on her background, but let's get started with Rebecca. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Donna, Zach, I'm so excited to be here today on Campground Compass. It's like a dream come true to see this project come to fruition. So thanks for having me.
We
Yep.
are glad to have you. Now, Rebecca has been an integral part of helping us get this podcast up and running and helping us name the podcast all the way down into the nitty gritty of setting up the website. And she has also been an integral part of helping us market all of our brands under Calculated Moves. So let's start off a little bit with talking about what it is you see out there in the marketplace that campground owners should really be taking advantage of that they are not. And how do we get to the stage of using somebody like you to help them?
What a loaded question. What they're not doing. I don't want campground owners to be driving by me in their little golf cart throwing burnt marshmallows. So let's handle this with aplomb. Uh, it's fun to be on this project for lots of reasons, and one of them, as you know, is being an avid camper. I'm not in the RV world, but I'm absolutely a tent camper and have been since I was like the first time I went camping as an adult. And I had no tent and I had no gear and I only had a rain jacket and it poured the entire time. Like just cats and dogs just poured relentlessly and I was in love. And that's a serious camper. If you, their first time out as an adult, camp in the rain and you still are like, yes to this for more, that was a lifelong habit. So I've had a chance to see a bunch of campgrounds kind of from the tent camping perspective. And if I had one wish for them or one magic wand moment, it would be to lean into their quirkiness or their personality a little bit more, less kind of homogenizing yourself with either a hotel experience or some other type of outdoor adventure, and kind of keeping your personality or the quirkiness of your campground in the background. And that to me breaks my heart because when we try too hard to be a hotel, we lose some of the uniqueness that's an outdoor adventure experience. So I guess it all comes back to branding, and that would be really leaning into who you are at your core and amplifying that in a way that other people want to be a part of it. If you don't, then all the campgrounds kind of run together, and you start to lose kind of memory of which ones were really special. And I think that that is a disservice to the really cool campgrounds that are out there.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, I know that we have started on this journey with you through the branding process to really define our brand. And now Zach is actually working on another brand with you and going through that exercise too. So give us a little insight into where you generally start your process. And I think that's with positioning and branding.
You could write this show, Donna. Absolutely. I start everything with positioning, and I think it's important to talk about what that actually means. And you've had the joy and the pleasure of experiencing that positioning on several different projects, as you mentioned. How do we keep all of that stuff straight? How do we keep calculated moves in its lane? How do we keep campground accounting in its lane? How do we keep campground compass in its lane without all of the messaging kind of blending together and keeping the uniqueness about each brand or project? And that is through the power of positioning. Positioning is just a marketing tool, for a lack of a better word. It's a simple formula. For me, it's a single sentence. Who are my people? What do they need? Who am I? What do I deliver? And why am I special, different, or the one? So, if you can answer all of those questions in a single sentence through the act of positioning yourself, you can develop the framework for a pretty powerful brand that people will instantly recognize. And for me, that's the Shangri-La of marketing and branding, is to get to that point of instant recognizability. So when I see something from Calculated Moves, I know without a shadow of a doubt that that is a Calculated Moves piece of content, because we've done a really good job controlling the conversation through positioning. So that was a long-winded way to say taking a lot of time to think about the answers to essentially your audience. Who are they? What are they really all about? What do they need? What are they struggling with? What does life look like for them? Who are you? How is what you're doing and your business coming in and solving problems or making life better or giving us something to believe and identify with, and why you are different? So we start everything by doing that deep investigation and trying to come up with a single positioning statement that allows us to then use it as a recipe to launch 1,000 marketing promotions or launch 1,000 podcasts or launch 1,000 clients through our onboarding process by being extremely intentional about who are our people, what they need, who we are, what we're delivering, and why we're special or different. And that is the act of positioning.
Hmm. Yeah, I know we're positioning the new niche right now, and it's going really well. But it really helps you take a deeper dive into actually learning about what is going on in your campground and learning what is going on. You know, more than what you even think. Take a deeper dive into what is your message and what is your target market. Who are you for and who are you not for? And yeah, it's a really powerful exercise that definitely helps you to be able to market your campground a lot better.
What has that been like for you, Zach, to go through this as you've been building a business out? There have been times through the process where I'm sure you've been like, can't we just get to the writing part? Can't you just give me a website? Can't we just start marketing this thing? Why do we have to sit and do this like 90-minute discovery session where you're asking me insanely detailed questions? Do we have to do this piece, or can't we just bypass it? Now that you've been through it, number one, did you have that experience of questioning the process? And two, after you've done it, were you glad you did, and why?
Mhm. Yeah, well, it's at first you may think that it's like, uh, well, this sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. It's you know, for the most part, you did everything. Like you just asked me the questions, I just answered. You did a great job at that. But what I'll say is that it definitely helps you, not just you, but also helped me learn a lot more about the industry, just expanding on my thoughts more than I ever had before. And it's definitely a great way to go because you just learn a ton more that you didn't even realize that you knew. You pull things out of the back of your head that you're like, well, I know that, but I didn't even think that I knew that. It's a really great exercise. Yeah.
It's
And
absolutely about articulation. Sorry, Donna.
that's all right. I know when we first started working with you, Rebecca, Chad and I went through this exercise too. And I too thought, like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I can tell her more. Can't she just look at my website and tell? But what the essential piece that I found that was really missing, and I'd been missing for a long time, I'd never found anybody who could articulate in my voice, in my words of how I want to portray it. You know, in our world of CPA world, everybody's boring. I'm stereotyping. It's this boring type of business where people stare at numbers all day and heads down and they can't speak English. Where I really want to make sure that our customers understand thoroughly in English terminology and strategy, but in an easy to understand and swallow way. And that has to come through in our vision of all of what we do in our services, because because people just don't understand even what we can do. And we've proven that through the branding exercise that, you know, we can't compare ourselves to the traditional CPA firm. And a lot of campgrounds, I think, compare themselves and think they're all the same as all the other campgrounds, and they're not. But it takes somebody who's a pro like Rebecca to pull that, sometimes kicking and screaming, to pull that stuff out of us, to use it to your advantage, to leverage why you're different and who your people really are.
Mhm.
If you don't do that, then what happens is your assets in the marketing world, that's just the digital or the tangible stuff that is in your marketing mix. So a website is an asset, a brochure is an asset, a social media platform is an asset, this podcast is an asset. So as you're developing assets, they have one job, and that job is to buy pre-sell your products and services or pre-sell your campsite. So if I have never heard of you before and I go to your website and take a look at the words and the pictures that are on there, it's going to give me a sense of who you are and what I can expect. So if campgrounds, don't really take the time to figure out what makes them special, unique, or different, or find a way to articulate their either core values or you know, their amenities or their just the vibe that's at a campground, then I'm either A, may not take the step forward to, you know, get a reservation at that campsite, or I might just toggle it along with like 5 or 6 others that just felt like that. Then when I show up, if the vibe is completely different than I saw on the website, what happens is this kind of psychological phenomenon of breaking brand where, like, oh man, these guys seem fun on the website, but they're actually really boring. Or in your case, it seemed boring on the website, but when I get in here, Donna has so much personality, Zach's so fun to work with, we really have a good time here, and it's not your grandma's accounting firm. If your website did not do that job for you in advance, then you spend a lot of time spinning your wheels and wasting energy, like answering phone calls with people who would never be ideal clients for you. So, by kind of whitewashing or homogenizing or making marketing very bland as to not offend anyone, you don't attract the right people, and you could attract just about everyone and spend just an infinite amount of time kind of vetting them one by one. When if you took the time to really think about your brand and do the work of positioning and come up with the words that articulate who you are and what you're all about, your website, your podcast, your social media channels, your brochure, your ad in, you know, Arvik or wherever you are, those things work so well that your ideal people will identify with you right away and see you as instantly recognizable. And they will also know if you're going to be a turnoff. So if I'm a camper who wants like an adult only vibe that has like a late checkout and no kids and Wi Fi and maybe a tiki bar, I really need to see that reflected in the brand in order to notice it, versus if I am a parent with young kids and want a playground and lots of things to do, and maybe we don't have to drive to anticipate activities, and there are a lot of things there that are family forward. So those are two very different brands, and if your assets don't reflect that, then you spend a lot of time on the phone or answering emails with people who are never going to be your ideal customer. So that's really the cautionary tale of not doing the work and having just this like homogenized branded experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I know last
I've
week we talked with TJ from Campsite
Yeah.
360, and he was saying, a lot of these campgrounds, they post pictures of this beautiful campground, of the one side of their campground that's got this nice ocean view and it's got a sunset. But then when campers get there, they're parked in a gravel lot on the other side of the campground where they got to walk a mile to the lake. And it really sets the stage a lot differently for campgrounds if people don't know what they're getting. With branding and the kind of stuff that you do a really good job of letting people know what they're actually looking for and turning off people, but turning off people that aren't good. you really want to make sure that your time is optimized. So you need to make sure that you're getting the right clients, not just any client. You need to make sure that you're getting the right campers, not just any campers. If you have a specific target market and you're looking for only older people to come to your campground, then you need to make sure that older people is who you're targeting, not the young folk, as they say. So I think you do a really good job of, making sure that campers are targeted right, or that people are targeting the right people versus just targeting everyone.
And
And
I,
that we have the permission. Oh, I'm sorry, Donna.
that's all right. Go ahead.
And that we have the permission to lean into the things that aren't scenically visted. So, in the example you just gave, it's okay to show the gravel lot. It's okay to say it's a mile walk to the lake, but say it's a mile walk to the lake. Be honest about it. And then I know what to expect when I show up there, and you can spin it in a way that's positive. Imagine what it will feel like after a brisk mile walk to just finally cross the crescent and see the lake for the first time. It's so much more rewarding than driving there. That's all you have to say.
Those are the
Versus not
magical words.
versus not telling anybody and then them expecting an ocean and showing up. I'll share a story about an Airbnb experience that I had in Memphis to illustrate this. The Airbnb, which was rented by friends of mine, did a fabulous job picking this giant house, and he was so excited about it, shared with everybody this amazing experience we are going to have in Memphis. And when we get there, the house is not as advertised, like big time. To the point where the photographs on Airbnb have this beautiful rooftop deck, and it's got like, very fashionable, stylish furniture. You look like you could lounge up there forever. The river is behind it. It's amazing. We'll get to the rooftop deck, and not only is none of that furniture still there, and it's all the like crappy, like the cheapest Value City furniture you could ever imagine, but since the time the photograph was taken, there's a bridge has been built in front of the river. You cannot see it at all.
Jeez.
If we knew that you would have a scenic vista of the bridge and you would be able to, throw a party on the roof, we don't care. The furniture is disposable. Say that instead of pretending that it's this grand spot. As a result, we'll never rent that house again. Ever. Ever rent that house again. When people have a brand breaking experience, they do not come back. You're doing more harm than good, over promising something you cannot deliver on, and you're doing your own quirky personality a disservice by not letting that shine. So what? You have a gravel parking lot. So what? There's a bridge in front of it. You're still on the rooftop deck. You can see all of Memphis below, and you're like a block away from the world's most famous fried chicken joint in Tennessee. That's your sell, not the scenic vista with a bridge that is blocking it. It breeds mistrust, and when you mistrust, like right now, Zach, I'm sure you can talk about this. Gen Z, like trusting the brand is being authentic, trusting that you're getting the truth, trusting you're not being duped or sold to is so important. And if you put this like false fake face on in the name of like looking good or branding, and you don't do enough development into what your unique personality is, people aren't going to come back. And repeat business is a whole lot cheaper than new business. So I think people are shooting themselves in the foot by not doing that work.
We have one really, really big trust issue that happens in campgrounds all across the United States. And it's narrowed down to one word. And that one word is resort. Many campgrounds have the word resort in their name. Some
Sometimes
live up
camping's
to
my last resort. You know what I'm saying?
that. Some live up to that name and others not so much. And I'll give you a perfect example. And again, there was nothing wrong with this campground, but its name was very misleading. And I actually knew the name was misleading before I actually was there. But we were taking our RV in for service, and we stayed at the Camping World Racing Resort in Concord, North Carolina. It's actually in the parking lot of the Charlotte Motor Speedway and the drag strip. And obviously during all the NASCAR races and all the races that happen there, this is one hopping place. I mean, it is full of RVs and travel trailers, all different varieties. There are millions of people there. However, we were there just because it was about 5 miles from where we had to drop our rig off for service the next morning, and we didn't want to have to fight traffic. But to call this a resort is really misleading. If somebody were coming there that didn't have a clue, I mean, we're in a gravel parking lot, and you know they uh, there aren't many amenities. There were two little swings at the end of the road and a little place to throw your dog poop bags. Um, Resort was not a word at all that I would associate with that park.
So
So,
all they had to do was say respite.
yeah, I mean, they
It's
could,
like just a few letters off. If you had said respite,
yeah,
maybe that could have, because that's for you. That was it. It was
and
the last
and
resort.
name it. I mean, truly, they're missing the opportunity to name it in the racing spirit. It could be the pit stop.
Oh
You know,
my God, who's
it
in
could have
charge here? You're
it could have
fired.
any any
You're
kind of
hired.
name that would lend itself to racing. And typically, I don't think even the racing population deals in resorts. I think those kind of they just don't mix when it comes to the marketing aspects of what those folks are looking for. So, yeah, I think that word we need to use a lot more caution. And I hear people on all the RVers boards, the guests who really get that name, and it's really an issue for a lot of people when you use that in your name. So you got to live up to that if you're going to take it on.
You got, and that's the thing. You got to live up to it if you're gonna take it on. And I do think that that kind of comes from a place of fear that entrepreneurs often grapple with. Fear that if I don't like up level it, if I don't call it something more sophisticated, if I don't, put it in a pretty wrapping paper, then I'm not going to be successful, because they're chasing this kind of like maybe an ideal of like, I don't know, middle class bliss, or trying to like luxurize everything. Podcast audience, that's air quotes, luxurize everything. And at the end, you're just kind of missing out on this beautiful opportunity to be authentically leaning into who you actually are. And I think that that's the power of positioning, is that it does give your own value. You can stop feeling like, oh, we're just a podunk little campsite, in North Carolina, right in the middle of a parking lot. Lean into that. The pit stop's a brilliant name. I would be doing everything like that. It'd be like, I don't know, I'd have a little food truck there. It'd be like 2-minute hot dogs, you know, round the bend curly fries. I don't know, be figuring out how to lean into the idea instead of lean out of what you actually are, because you're afraid. Again, we're at this fear moment. You're afraid to be who you actually are because you think it won't be commercially viable. We have been kind of fed over time that the more luxury you are, the more people will want to see, the more people will have perceived value and will be attracted to you. But if it's a lie, you're not building any business at
Yeah.
all. And it
And
takes
one
bravery to step out in a quirky brand.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'll mention that I see a lot, obviously, when I am going to talk with a prospective client, I go pop out to their website and go take a look and see what they're all about before our call. And one of the first places I look is the About page, whatever that is called on their website.
That is the
Yeah.
most popular page. Listen, y'all, the About
Yep.
page is the most popular page on any website. Do not sleep on the About page. It
Yeah.
is so important. It's actually more important than the homepage sometimes.
And what I'm looking for is I want to see their story. Like, who is it who owns this? What is it they want to achieve? Did they move there with their kids when their kids were young, or do they have older kids who are working in the park and want to take it over? Is it just a single guy? Is it a married couple? Is it a group of people? I really want to know the story, and I don't see that all that much in on campground websites. And in many cases, it's almost like they're trying to hide their story. And especially, I mean, I'm always in with family owned campgrounds. So I, I understand if there's less information, if it's a bigger corporate kind of an entity. but on a family-owned campground, I'm yearning to see the story.
My God, it's not just campgrounds. We're
Yeah,
all yearning for narrative. Humans connect through stories. We are infiltrated with marketing input constantly. You cannot exist in this world without being, stimulated by someone who's trying to get you to either take a call to action or buy something. And without a story to ground you, it's just more noise. So I love that you brought up steeping your brand in some sort of narrative because we're all human beings and that's the connection we're seeking. If you can think of an amazing vacation experience that you've had in your lifetime and you're telling stories about it, it's probably not about how good the hotel website looked like. It was really like, oh, we met the concierge there was amazing. Every day we came downstairs and they told us where to go for coffee. That human connection, that story. They told us this hotel was actually built in the 1700s, was originally a stable, and over time did this thing. My God, you'll never forget that. That's how we make connections. So bring a narrative into it. Even if your story doesn't seem exciting to someone else, it probably is exciting to someone else. And even if it's not, we still want to, even if it's not, we still want to hear it. Give us
it would
those.
be exciting if you wrote it.
That's
Well,
true.
I mean, that's not a bad like entree into get professional help.
Yeah,
Sure, get
yeah.
professional help. I No one would deny that that helps. A professional copywriter, a brand strategist, a marketing person who can really take this to the next level. Not everyone can do that, so I will say that the work that we're talking about here, you can DIY it. You don't have to have like the special passcode gremlins key to be able to do a positioning statement, but you do have to do the work. And if you're not a great writer, maybe somebody else is. And if you're not a great writer, maybe you talk well on video. Or if you're not a great writer, maybe you sound great on a podcast, or you're an illustrator and you can tell a story. So I just want folks at home to know, like, it's not all about, well, if you hire somebody, you're going to get the golden key. These are things you can do on your own. Are they going to be as sophisticated or deep or nuanced as if a professional strategist took you through the exercise? Probably not. Maybe you have a gift for it, but they will be better than just the vanilla. We're a campsite. We're open these hours. We have X amount of bathrooms. Please bring cash for firewood.
Yeah, I think many campground owners look at their website as their workhorse because, and we do, they do a lot of work in that they do online bookings. However, um, keeping that website in mind as if it weren't your workhorse, um, don't let all the other pages fall asleep just because you have the online booking. They're all the other pages are important too, and the one thing you mentioned about having somebody professional help you, I will say the opposite is also true. That you can't just, and as much as I would like, you can't just hand this off and say, "Hey, Rebecca, go do this thing." I still have to be an integral part of helping feed the information and feed the story and get that positioning and branding in place so that a professional can do their job to make this website or whatever marketing material you have shine.
Yeah, and
It's if it
the
has no
difference is
feeling, nobody will care.
when you hire a professional, you're really able to breathe life into, campground ownership. You're really able to, and that's a sentence that she wrote, by the way. I didn't write that. That's a sentence that she wrote somewhere in our copy, and I just pulled it out of my brain right now. But
But that's why it works because branded copy, you internalize it. And when I can get you to internalize it and Donna to internalize it, and then when you hear your client say it back to you on the phone or a prospect, that's branded copy coming to life when we are all playing from the same sheet of music. Because what brand is, in my opinion, is your reputation brought to life in words, images, and actions. And if everyone has a different idea about what that reputation is, if there's no control over the conversation, then you could be selling something different than Donna is selling, and Donna could be selling something different than Chad is selling, and everybody's kind of talking about the company in a way that they understand it, but we're not using the same words and phrases. So once you start to say breathe life into campground ownership, and you say it again in a sales call, and you say it again when you are on the podcast, and you say it again in an email, and it becomes part of who you are, you're controlling the conversation so that, you know, some people say brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. Doing the work of positioning, having kind of branded phrases that you then own and weave throughout all your marketing, you just exemplified it. It was beautiful.
Mhm.
And also, Donna, to your point of doing the work together, like it's not a cut a check and do it for you, which was a hard lesson I had to learn in my own entrepreneurial journey. Because what I thought people wanted to hear was, I will channel your voice and do it for you. You don't have to do anything. And so I started my business that way. And boy, was it a failure. Because one, I don't channel your voice, it's my voice. I just tone it to the brand. So I stopped talking about it being your voice that I channel because it's not true. I'm loaning other people the brand's my voice and developing it. And two, I stopped saying it's cut a check and done for you. Now I say, guess what? This is as much work as if you're doing it on your own, but the results will be exponential. It is
Mhm.
work. You have to show up. I need you to have the bandwidth. You've got to come to meetings. I can't just deliver this out of a vacuum. But when you do, that's when it's super
Mhm.
authentic. So I had to learn my own brand lessons about delivering or giving messaging around things I thought people wanted to hear, and then what it really was, because what it really was much more valuable.
Mhm.
Is that
And then
I am there with you.
yeah. And like the big benefit is that, there's some wordplay things that just stick in your head. And like, I would never be able to think of those things. I know you can pull them out like that, but I can't think of that kind of stuff. Like what I said earlier, the breathe life into campground ownership. I wouldn't be able to think of that in my head. But now that the, you know, now that it's written and I've read it, I'm like, wow, that's really great. But like, I would have probably said, well, you know, I don't even know what I would have said. I couldn't even think of something because it's like, I don't know. I would have probably said like, show your authentic self in campground ownership. It doesn't sound good as breathe life. It
Well,
just
the other thing that comes into play with me in particular, and a lot of campground owners, come out of industry where they are technical oriented. And so I am by nature a technical writer. It doesn't come easily to me to add the creative fluffiness to really add the mass appeal. If you want to know how to get things done, I'll tell you step A, one, two, three, and B, and lead you through a process. But that's not how marketing works. Marketing needs to paint a picture.
Narrative,
Yeah.
story, enchantment,
Yeah.
shared understanding, shared words, personality. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the perfect client, Donna, because you let me have so much fun with the writing and put in just infinite amount of camping jokes, and you never push back on me. So I would say that yes, like the professional relationship is clutch for a lot of reasons. For the facilitation, for keeping people in their core competencies, for farming out if it's not in your zone of genius, and bringing in someone who can bring that integration. But you also have to be able to collaborate, and you also have to be able to step back and let the person who's like chef's kiss that job is do that job. And so my advice to campground owners would be like, yeah, great, if you can do it, bring someone else in to do it and do the facilitation and get those branded words you're craving and those phrases and words that everyone can use to understand what you're doing. But you also have to like let it be. So you could have easily been a client that, gave pushback, wanted to see it more technical. I need something more professional. Podcast audience, those are air quotes again. I need something more professional. But you stepped back and gave the talent room to breathe, and your copy shows in that freedom. I think what's really important to you as an entrepreneur, and Zach as well, is freedom, the lifestyle freedom. How do I make a life on my own terms and also empower my clients to make a life on their own terms, and they can work as much or as little as they want to, because we can do it by design. Allowing that freedom to breathe into your partnerships and creative collaborations has shown up in the brand in really beautiful ways. So it takes two to make a thing go right. It actually took three.
Yep,
Also,
You-
yep.
Zach, you're not giving yourself enough credit, bro. You came up with Campground Compass.
Yeah,
That was you,
yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yep.
yeah. He
That
brought
and
that
that
one
only,
to
but
the
that
table.
only came to me because I was in a meeting, and it just came to me because I heard like 20 other options that you brought to the table.
But
And I was like,
that's the
well, that's
beauty
it.
of
There you go.
collaboration. What I came up
Exactly.
with in a vacuum, what you came up with in a vacuum, what you came up with in a vacuum, never. I got disconnected. Sorry, podcast audience. What we would have come up with in a vacuum would have never been as magical as what we came up with together in collaboration.
Yeah, and
100%.
I agree. We, in Rebecca's positioning, she generally brings like three different statements to the table, and we read through them and listen to them and see what parts we like, what parts we don't, and or what parts we want to save for some other point. And then she magically melds all our favorites all into one. And that's how we get the positioning statement that kind of leads down the trail to where we're heading. And I think that step, if you don't take that sort of step, you really are just kind of wandering through the forest instead of having that roadmap. And that's what the positioning does.
Doing three of them, I'm going to stop right here because I don't see a line on my audio. So I want to make sure that, Zach, you can
Mm.
hear me
Yeah,
a
we
little
can hear
bit.
you. Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Doing three of them allows, I used to just do one with the client and we would come up with it together, but there was still a level of insecurity there. It was either prescriptive and no one would ever absorb it on their own. So either I would say, like, as the brand strategist, here's your positioning statement, congratulations. And they'd be like, oh, it's so shiny. But you would never use it on your own because you really didn't have that much ownership in constructing it. So when it's prescriptive, it's hard to get people to just absorb it on your team. But because we do three, essentially we're triangulating amongst, I do a vanilla one, a butterscotch one, and one that's a little avant garde. So 2 years from now, when you're thinking, should I be a little more racy with my brand? Nope, I've tried it on. We tried on the racy version and it didn't feel right. What felt right was this one. So doing the three really allows you to triangulate and bounce around some different ideas so that when you finally find your positioning amongst those three, it feels so right and you feel like you had ownership in it. And then you start using the words naturally. If I just given you breathe life into campground ownership, you guys would be like, that's really great. It's cute. Can't wait to see it on the website. But because you had an active role in co creation, Zach absorbs it,
Hmm.
internalizes it, and then it becomes your reputation manifesting
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, and really what happens, the whole process of this is we put down our technical ideas and then you add the creative stuff to it. And we're saying the same thing, but the branding is just so much different when you say breathe life into campground ownership versus be authentic in your campground. It's the real magic comes in the creativity of the branding.
Well, it's about a feeling, and you
Hmm.
guys were able to communicate with me what that feeling is. Do campground owners really go to bed at night and just like lay there staring at the ceiling thinking, I wish I was more authentic and genuine? No. Would someone please breathe life into this for me? I am struggling here. It feels like a daily slog. Like, I fill up the water hole, I empty the water hole. I fill up the water hole, I empty the water hole. Through campground accounting, Breeze gives it just this vitality because you start to see your business as an exciting entity again. You start to think like, wow, we just did a little bit of course correction in the way I approach, you know, uh, like investing in a new piece of equipment because Donna had this incredible insight about how we can leverage that for our, stronger profitability. And now I'm excited about my business because it's a challenge. I don't feel like I've just bought myself another job. So when you're doing that kind of like, how do I communicate the soul of the brand essentially? You really have to think, what are people really struggling with? Do they need to feel more authentic and genuine in their business ownership? Probably not as much as feeling less tired, feeling energized by it, getting excited by it. And,
Mhm.
every conversation we have, I think a business owner must love this because it's so energizing and exciting to think about fully realizing what we all go into a business to do, which is to live life on our own terms or to create a future for ourselves that could never be created in a 9 to 5, or to, I get to be at a campsite all day and get paid for it. How exciting is that? Or I get to build something that my kids will inherit. That's exciting. That's why we get into it. That's why we have the sleepless nights and the indecision. And the way you approach accounting breathes life into that and makes it exciting for people and less exhausting. So you really just have to think about humans.
And
Mhm.
we have a lot of listeners out there who are either contemplating buying an existing campground or maybe building one. So, do you have any tips on if you're heading into, let's start off with the buying part? Generally, I'm going to stereotype it a little bit, but a lot of cases when people are buying a campground, the previous owner is tired. Um, and they really have to breathe a lot of new life and they bring a lot of new ideas to the table. What should they look for in saying, I know there's a lot to take on if I want to just, keep the same name but change everything. They always have these big ideas from them. I'm going to change up the amenities. I'm going to get a new website. I'm going to do all these things. From a marketing standpoint, what should they prioritize?
That's an excellent question, Donna. You're so smart. I think that if you don't have just your foundational pieces set, it's a lot of anxiety. So I recommend to any entrepreneur, whether you're buying a new business, you're taking over a brand, you're starting a new thing, to just get your footing from your marketing footing in place before you start worrying about new promotions, new ideas, discounts, things like that. Meaning, if you get attention for any reason, like, there's an amazing review on, I don't, they're like camping apps. I can't even remember what any of them are called.
Most
Even
of
on
them just
Google
come on
Maps
Google.
or anything like that
Yeah.
too.
But yeah, you get an amazing review, you got a bunch of attention. Something remarkable happens, like, oh, Sasquatch was found on your property, and all of a sudden the news channel is there. Are you ready for that kind of attention? So and so's looking for a family reunion. You've got a family camping spot. It hosts 40. Now 40 people want to come to this campground again every year for this family reunion. Are you ready for that? So just make sure that your like digital storefront is open for business so that you at least have two social media channels, at least you have your website down, at least you have an email list that's started. You will kick yourself in 2 years if you do not start segmenting and just working your list right now, even if you only have two people on it. Invest that you have, a mailing list ready to go, that your website is ready to go, and people can sign up for your list. And you've got at least a little bit of a social media channel to share some of this stuff. Be ready for eyeballs. And then slow your roll. Calm down a little bit. I know it's exciting. You've got tons of ideas. If that were my campsite, here's how I would do it. But just have some real people in your site. Actually host guests. Walk around. What's that acronym for management by walking around? Like, walk around. Listen. The most sophisticated marketing tool ever invented is listening.
Yep.
Listen to what they want. If they say, hey, man, except for that firewood sure piece, I wish there was a wagon there. Ding. I need a wagon. Oh man, thanks for coming around and seeing us. This ground is really wet. I don't know. Is there a place we can move? Ding. Camp 7 gets wet after a rain. Oh, geez. Do we have to drive 10 miles to get ice? Ding. A camp store would probably be a good idea. So once you've set up your foundation, start listening, and then come back with your big ideas. And of course, you've done your positioning work. Then you can pop off or pop tent off, as you would say.
Yeah,
There you go.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, where can people find you on if people want to reach out to you, if people want to get involved, people just want to follow you, see what you're doing, where can they find you?
Thank you for asking, Zach. I am at stonedfruit.com, and that's STONED fruit.com. And if you want to go to stonefruit.com/campground accounting, I'll have some positioning resources up there for folks to explore how they would write a positioning statement. So you can find me in your own little home away from home at stonefruit.com/campground accounting, specifically for listeners of this podcast. Did I say
Awesome.
campground compass or campground accounting? Oh.
Either I can't remember. In either case, we will put a link down here in the bottom so you can link directly out to Rebecca's site and get those resources too.
Mm-hmm.
Campgroundcompass.com, right?
You go. Yep.
Campgroundcompasspodcast.com.
Campground Compass Podcast.
Yeah,
Right.
podcast.com.
Yep. Yep.
It's really
Yes.
confusing. Yep. I think I've got it down. I think I got it down. Let's see if I can get it. We got Campground Compass on every platform, social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, as well as
Spotify,
there's another social media platform. I'm forgetting it now.
Twitter,
I'll think of it.
Facebook.
Oh, Twitter. We're on Twitter at Campground Pod. At Campground Pod on Twitter. I don't think we're posting anything there right now, but we're working on that. And then we got whatever your favorite platform is for listening to podcasts, you can listen to us. The video for this podcast will be available on YouTube. So if you go over to at Campground Compass on YouTube, you can check out the video. If you want to watch some shorts, you can check those out there too, which is the same as what goes on TikTok, but on YouTube. You can also find us at Campground Compass Clips on YouTube, where we'll post short segments of the podcast where you can check us out and not have to listen to the whole thing. And that's I think I got everything.
I think you caught it.
I'm getting better at this. After every episode, I'm getting better at it.
You're getting so good. I need to take some lessons from you for sure.
And don't forget, they can email us at hi@campgroundcompass.com.
There we go. hi@campgroundcompass.podcast.com. You want to know who else thought of that? Who thought of that? Rebecca. Yeah.
That would be our marketing genius, Rebecca.
She thought of that as well. So, yeah.
You guys
When we had we thought of all kinds of things, but the campgroundcompasspodcast.com, if you want to find anything, you can go check us out there. We'll have links to everything there. And yeah, if you got any questions, any suggestions, anything like that, you can submit your ideas at campgroundcompasspodcast.com. And that's it from us.
This has been so fun to see come to fruition.
Yeah, I know. So great to have you on.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been more fun than 2 marshmallows on a single square of chocolate.
See the wordplay she's coming up with? I couldn't do that.
Between 2 smoking pieces of graham cracker. Roasted lightly over an open fire. Under the stars. In the gravel parking lot 1 mile away from the lake.
At the resort.
There you go. At the resort. Alrighty. Well, that's it from us. We'll see y'all next week. We got this weekly, so hopefully we'll have a new episode next week, depending on our camper situation. But yeah, we'll see y'all next week, and make sure you tune in. We got some exciting stuff coming, so make sure you stay tuned.
Thanks, everybody.
Campground Compass for the win. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bordeaux.
Thank you for listening to Campground Compass. I'm so glad you joined us. Check out the show notes and more of our seasoned advice at campgroundcompasspodcast.com. While you're there, be sure to explore the archives for previous episodes. And if you never want to miss a single audio adventure in 4-season business growth, subscribe to this podcast here and on YouTube. If you like what you're hearing, please consider leaving us a positive review on iTunes. It would be very much appreciated. Friends on social media, check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Campground Compass. Until next time, stay savvy.